Hello everybody, it's Brian here in Toronto, and this video will be my response to the Japan vinyl tag. This is the interesting thing about the VC is you often find out about channels because of threads or contests or tags, and this is an example of a channel I had never heard of before. It's a guy called Brian. Tokyo Records Style is the channel. Of course, I will leave a link. And as I think in my review of subscriptions that I have, I think two channels have done this. One is Peter, Music is a Journey, who lives in Japan, and David Atkinson. I watched his video yesterday. So Brian's original video is quite long. It's over an hour and 12 minutes, I think, and Peter's is also quite long. It's nearing an hour. So I'm going to do this more expeditiously. I will not take an hour to do this. I can't remember how long David's was, but when I first heard about it, I thought this is going to be way too Japanese for me because I don't have a deep collection of Japanese artists or pressings. But when you watch the video, you realize that there's a lot of leeway there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Japanese, although some of the inspiration for the questions are Japanese kind of things, as you will see. So I will leave a link, of course, to Brian's channel and also to the two people I know who have done this already. And as I say, this will be shorter than an hour because I'm not going to say a huge amount about each of these things. But let's get it going. 20 questions, as is typical for a vinyl tag video. So let's see. First question, I'm going to look at my notes here. It's called Obi-Wan. Show a record with a Japanese Obi strip or cool insert. There's also this bonus thing of learn a Japanese character. Yes, I did learn one, but I'm not going to show it to you. So I don't have a huge amount of Japanese pressings, but I would buy them if they were affordable, and they often aren't. But if I see one for a good price, I'll grab it. And this is a case of one that I got. I hadn't had this record, and I saw it in a Japanese bin in a store, and I thought, I'm going to grab it. So this is Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier. How cool is that? From 1980, I believe. It's the back of it. And this was really affordably priced. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise, so it was not that much more than buying a domestic release. And the insert is cool because it has English there, Japanese there, and it opens up to Japanese on this side and English on this. So that is a pretty cool record. The label is just a typical Epic with this rounded thing. Now, I don't know if this sounds better than a domestic release because I've never heard a domestic release of this, or a UK pressing. This is the only one I've ever heard, so I don't know. It's probably good. So, question 2, a Japanese band or artist. And there was some flexibility there if you didn't have one. So the only one that was really appropriate in my collection, well, almost the only one, was this weird collaboration, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, between Keiji Haino and Sumac. So he is a avant-garde, I guess is the best way to describe it, Japanese artist, and Sumac is a really heavy band, kind of on the heavy side of things. And they did 3 collaborations, I believe. They did this one in Vancouver without any rehearsals or discussion. They just walked into the studio and recorded this record, which is fascinating. I have to say it's really fascinating. So we have English on one side, Japanese on the other, as we do here, if you can see that. And this is a slipcase. There's the band there. I guess you can tell who is who. Artwork here. And there's 2 records in here. One of them has English here, and one of them has Japanese there with the artwork there. So this is a really interesting album. He plays guitar and sings, and there's drums, guitar, and bass. I think it's really cool. From Thrill Jockey Records, which is a label I really like. Number 3 is Sunrise Soundtrack. So share a record for watching a sunrise. And this one was, for me, the hardest record because I have been awake at sunrise in various places. It happens camping. Sometimes I've been down on the beach when the sun is rising, and I struggle to think of a single record that I would want to hear in that situation because the world is so calm. It's usually quiet. There may be some birds, or when it's just so peaceful. And every time I thought of a record, I thought it would ruin the experience. Even the calmest folk music, I thought would ruin the experience. So the thing I settled on was from a compact disc, and this is an album called Thursday Afternoon by Brian Eno. And this is the 61, well, it says it's 61-minute version. I don't know if there's a different version, but obviously not entirely suitable for vinyl because they have to cut it in at least half. But this is just a really, on the surface, simple piece of music that goes on for 61 minutes. It doesn't really build, it just sort of continues with this wash of sounds that come over you, all very uniform. It doesn't really deviate. And for me, I think this is something I would like to listen to at sunrise because it is really effective. Of course, Brian Eno's done a lot of ambient works. This is one of my favorites from him. It is just really, in some respects, music you can just sort of listen to and kind of get lost in. And I think it would suit the experience of a sunrise. Number 4, City Sounds. Now, David Atkinson used the record that occurred to me first, but I chose this one from Bruce Springsteen, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, because I think that a lot of the songs here really reflect city life. So, for example, the last track, It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City, where he talks about, people asking for money, what he's wearing, going in the subway. It's hard to be a saint in the city. Does this bus stop at 82nd Street, urban transit. Growing up, he talks about his high school. Even For You, he talks about Bellevue, the hospital. I think this is a really interesting record. And it does, of all the Springsteen records, I think it's the one that possibly has more of a city vibe than the other ones. And of course, it has the original and unbeatable version of Blinded by the Light. That came up in a video from Steve at All the World's a Stage. People saying that, he said, and some commenters were saying that Manfred Mann's version was the best. I disagree. I hate that version. I've always hated it. The original is the best. Okay. Number 5. No, wait, I'm losing my mind here. That was number 4. Number 5. Zen Listening, show a record that quiets your mind. I kind of pursued this in a different way because I think in the original video it was music that would sort of settle you and center you and maybe work towards achieving a meditative state where you could clear your mind of things. But I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm listening to sometimes listening to music that's really quiet and peaceful and calming, my mind tends to wander because I don't tend to focus on the music very much. So for this one, I wanted to clear my mind in a way. I wanted to think of music that I would focus on. That sounds antithetical, I suppose, but I wanted music that would capture my attention and I would not start thinking about other things because I'd be so focused on the music and maybe other thoughts would arise. But I chose King Crimson's Discipline because this music is so complicated. It's really complex, different time signatures, interlocking guitars. They shift time signatures different in songs partway through. Sometimes the guitarists are playing in different signatures. I think this is a record that demands your complete attention, and that might seem opposite of clearing your mind, but I think it works for me because I wouldn't be sort of wandering aimlessly through thoughts of the day. I'd be sort of focused on the music, and maybe that would be a way to clear your mind. You might disagree. Number 6, Go, 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 Godzilla. Share a record that destroyed your musical expectations and perceptions. That is such a difficult one to answer, and I think any record from a band that's kind of changed directions might do that. But I picked maybe a kind of odd one. I picked NWA's Straight Outta Compton because although I had heard hip hop and rap before this, this is the first record I'm aware of where the band received a letter from the FBI, notably for the second track, Blank the Police. It was controversial. There was boycotts from radio stations. It was kind of in-your-face social commentary. And it was about an area that I think maybe many people didn't know about, at least in Canada, like South Central LA. I really probably didn't know much about it until this record came out. So it sort of was a wake-up call in some respects, knowing what was happening, the injustice that was happening there. No matter what side of the debate you're on, I think it was an interesting record. And I think this is a very interesting record, very cool record. Ahead of its time. Share a record that was ahead of its time. Again, so many things I could have chosen, but I sometimes, when I listen to this record I'm going to mention, I honestly cannot believe that it was released in 1967. It just doesn't seem to fit. It just seems more, I don't know what the word is, like ahead of its time, yes. Maybe not, but for me, it does seem that way. And this is the Velvet Underground and Nico. Every time I hear this record, I'm just transfixed because I think every song is a work of art. I think it's a beautiful record. It's abrasive in places. It has, Nico's fine singing on some tracks, which seems at odds with the rest of the record. You've got a song about heroin. I'm Waiting for the Man about buying drugs. And then these beautiful things like Femme Fatale and All Tomorrow's Parties. It's I'll Be Your Mirror. It's sort of this weird two sides to this record, but yeah, and I think it was kind of ahead of its time. I mean, who was singing so openly about drugs? Maybe other people were. But the lyrical content of Venus and Furs seemed ahead of its time too. So I'm choosing that one. All right. Take a Walk, Man. Show an album suitable for dubbing to cassette for the classic Sony Walkman. And I realized sitting here, I should have taken my Sony Walkman out and presented it here for you to see, but that's past. So I think in the original video there was something about a walk around your neighborhood. Well, because I live downtown Toronto, it tends to be noisy. Not on the street I live in, but if I walk in one direction or another, I'm going to be on a main street, and there are cars, there are people walking, there's just noise, there's construction, there's streetcars, sometimes city buses. So it can be noisy. So I would choose something that overwhelmed that noise, but also a record that would sort of make me walk with determination. So something that had some energy behind it. So I picked Sugar, File Under Easy Listening. And this is my original pressing from 1994, which still has a shrink wrap on it. Great band from Bob Mould of Husker Du. He did some solo stuff, and then he came back with a vengeance with the first Sugar record, Copper Blue. But this one, I love equally to it. It starts, just listen to The Gift. That'll get you going. Accompanied book. Your Favorite Thing, that's a great song, G Angel. It's such a good record. And I think that would be very enjoyable on a Walkman. So number 9, Bullet Train. Show a record perfect for the train ride. And I think the original conception of this was something that was sort of like a train, driving down the tracks. But I kind of thought about it in a different way, because when I think of trains, I think of one record only. And that is because many years ago now, 15 years ago, we went to Europe and we took the train everywhere. So from Paris to Amsterdam to Brussels to Paris to Switzerland, like to Geneva, Zurich, 4 or 5 cities in Switzerland. And a constant companion for me on that trip was this record from Bob Dylan, which I just showed the other day, Modern Times. I listened to this on every single train trip. And so when I hear this record, all I can think about is a train. So that's why I chose it. But it is a really, really good record. Thunder on the Mountain, of course, is on here. Oh, man, it's so good. So good. The Levee's Gonna Break. Yeah, this is great. And so is Together Through Life. I might even like a little bit better than this, but this is fantastic. And I'll always think of the train when I hear that album. Lost in Translation. That was a good movie, by the way. Share a record that takes you to a different world. I guess a lot of things could qualify for that. I chose this record by the Sleaford Mods called English Tapas, because apparently this was written around the time of the 2016 referendum on the European Union in England. So it talks about life and politics in England. That alone would qualify for it being taking you to another land, because the themes of the record are not North American, for example. But the second thing is that the vocals on this are very English, really English delivery, the English accent. So this is, any Sleaford Mods record would do that for you. This sort of speak, talk, rap, English accent thing going on there was really interesting. So that undeniably would transport you to the UK. Number 11, Live at Budokan. Show any recorded live album. So it could be a record from Budokan. I only have one, of course, Cheap Trick, and I'm not going to show that because, David showed it, but also, if I thought I would just pick another one. So I'm going to go back to Bob Mould, and this is a Bob Mould solo record, which is called Circle of Friends, and it was recorded live at the 930 Club on vinyl for the very first time for the 2020 record store day release. And again, more glare because the shrink wrap is on here. This is an excellent collection of live Bob Mould tracks. I mean, it's so good. He covers some Husker Du tracks. He puts some Sugar tracks in. He puts his own solo material here. Really, really fantastic. It's on double clear vinyl. Circle of Friends. Really cool. I recommend that. If you're a Bob Mould fan and you don't have this, I think you should. Number 12, Vinyl Bar DJ. Show a record to play at a vinyl bar. I actually had no idea what a vinyl bar was until I heard this question, and I looked it up because I've never heard of that term before. And yet, when I searched it, I got these prompts for like top 10 vinyl bars in Toronto. So clearly there are vinyl bars in Toronto that I have never been to, didn't know it was a thing. But I guess if you're going to choose a record for a vinyl bar, it has to be something that you can have a conversation to. So I don't think you'd want like Iron Maiden necessarily. So I picked something that's maybe a bit art rocky, avant-garde, and something that would certainly catch someone's attention. I think if you heard this, you'd be interested in it. And I think it's something you could continue your discussion with, but sort of check out from time to time. And that is Desert Shore from Nico, which is one of her, I think maybe her best, I don't know. It's hard to say what her best record is. And again, more shrink wrap here, but need I say that this was produced by John Cale? By the way, there is another John Cale video coming, hopefully on Friday. And this is really fantastic. I love this record. So hard to choose between her records, but this is a really good one. I think that would work in a haughty or rarefied environment like a vinyl bar. Now, where are we? Island Nation, number 13. Share a record with an island vibe. I'm going to pick something so obvious that you might laugh at it, but could I not choose Bob Marley's Exodus? Why not? In fact, this record reminds me of, well, every time I hear Bob Marley, I'm reminded of a trip I took to St. Lucia, because there were these, at the resort we were at, you had to travel to the beach by a little bus they had because it was too far away. And they played music on the bus, and it was always Bob Marley. So people were singing along on the bus, Three Little Birds, Waiting in Vain, Jamming is on here, Exodus. So I think this definitely has an island vibe. Perhaps obvious, but I couldn't leave that one out. All right. Number 14 is Monsoon Season. Share a record for a rainy day. And as soon as I heard that, I thought of two bands, and I'm going to show you one of them. I mean, Beach House immediately came to mind. This is Depression Cherry. I think any Beach House record would work. I guess you'd call this dream pop. But, you're sitting in a house or whatever and it's raining. I think this would be the perfect accompaniment. And is this their best record? Not sure, but it's really cool. I really love this record. So Beach House. Where are we now? 15. Wabi Sabi. Show a record that's imperfectly perfect. That's a tough one because there's so many flawed records, but I went with the first one I thought of, and whether it's perfect would be open to interpretation. It's definitely imperfect, and that is The Clash's Sandinista. There are always those people who think this should be a double album instead of a triple, or maybe even a single record, but there's no denying that there's some amazing things on this record. Magnificent Seven, for example, Police on My Back. Here's the back, and my copy, I got this used at some time, and someone put the hype sticker right there. And yes, it does have the poster, which I won't take. Well, it does have the poster in it. So anyway, you're the pullout. Imperfectly perfect. Whatever that means. All right, number 16, Origami Me. Show a record with intricate or interesting packaging, and because origami means folding paper, I picked something that does have a folding component to it, and this is a unofficial record called The Smiths Rare Tracks. Let's see the back here. So, what does this have on it? There's BBC sessions, then there's rare vinyl sessions. I can't go into the whole history of it, but Disc 2 has 13 tracks, Disc 1 has 10 tracks, and actually the sound quality on this is pretty good, but okay, this is how it works. So there is this fold here and fold here, and within that fold there are the two records which, as it happens, are on this yellow gold vinyl. There's the Smiths there. There's some, my screen went dark there. Anyway, so they're both on yellow vinyl, yellow gold vinyl. So then you have, so this, which folds out, and then of course on the back, but this actually folds once more. So on the inside you get this, if you can see, I'll lean back if you can see that. And then of course you have this here. So essentially it's a giant fold out of various things, like there's an interview with him, a conversation with him, with Morrissey in 1985, with questions that were asked. And on the inside, it's an article from the first significant interview with the Smiths, the author unknown, so that's reprinted here. There's a bunch of things here. There's some review of them as a live act. There is, anyway, it goes on and on and on. It's quite the read and lots of photographs. So that is a large fold out. It doesn't have a conventional record cover because when you fold it back, the records are just somehow tucked in the fold. So kind of interesting. All right. Where are we now? Number 17, Fusion Frenzy. Share an album that fuses genres. And I chose this record from Jon Hassell called Aka Darbari Java, and I just made a note here because I was going to forget it. It was described as being a blend of early 80s high-tech with ancient Southeast Asia, calling it a juncture, high watermark of the juncture between world and ambient music. And this is a fascinating record. I was fascinated by Jon Hassell since I first heard Dream Theory in Malaya, which is just the opening track is phenomenal. So this is really cool. I have a number of other releases by him because I think he's just really an interesting musician. I believe he died a little while ago. Nominally a trumpeter, but not your traditional. You wouldn't confuse him with a normal trumpet. It's quite different. Anyway, this is, I think, really excellent. If you can find that, it's cool. All right, number 18 is Tokyo Nights Show and Nightlife record. Almost any upbeat record for me would suit that, but in thinking about it, the first record that occurred to me was Purple Rain from Prince, just because there are some, party tracks on here like Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry is a good track. I think there's some really, Purple Rain, of course. This originally came with a poster, which is missing from my copy, unfortunately, because I got it at a thrift shop for $1.99, so I can't complain about that. So I think this would work. This would sort of give you some energy if you're going out at night, or if you heard it at night. I think that would work. 19, End of the Day. Show a record to play at the end of a busy day. Again, so many choices. You either want music to unwind with, or you want music to go with your dinner. But I picked one of the most perfect albums I could think of that I just love, and I think the energy is perfect for after work. It's got some, upbeat elements. It's just very good melodies, and that is Doolittle by the Pixies. I think this is a great record. I mean, it's just kind of almost perfect. It plays like a greatest hits record to me, and I think sometimes after work you want to hear familiar tracks, and I think the whole album here would be familiar to many people. Finally, we're near the end, and it's only been 23 minutes so far. The Last Samurai. Share a record to be remembered by, to play at your memorial. Well, that's sad. I discarded the first two things that occurred to me because they seemed a little too obvious, but in the end, I went with perhaps a strange choice. Now, this is the Kid Amnesia version, but from Kid A, there is a track called How to Disappear Completely. So that's a pretty appropriate track for the end of your life. That's not me. I go where I please. I walk through walls. I float down the lifey. Is that what it says? I'm not here. This isn't happening. I'm not here. I'm not here. Now, apparently this song has been championed by people who are struggling with depression. That may be well and true. But the lyrics, I guess you could read in a number of ways. But the fact that it's called How to Disappear Completely sounds pretty perfect for a memorial. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm not going to die, I don't think, but you never know. So anyway, that was a very interesting exercise. I didn't believe I would be able to find enough that match these questions, but there we have it. I'd be interested to see more people do this because it doesn't seem to have been taken up by many people. And all I can say is thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.